Welcome to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. You're going to want to stick around. We talk today about some of the issues with artificial intelligence appraisers need to be aware of. You're going to want to hear this podcast.
Are you ready to take your career in real estate appraisal to the next level? Join the Appraisal Institute, your go-to source for expert insights, industry trends, and the latest updates from the world of valuation. Whether you're an experienced appraiser or just starting out, they bring you industry resources, classes, and all the knowledge you need to stay ahead. Join today and be part of a community that's shaping the future of the appraisal profession. Visit appraisalinstitute.org to learn more and become a member. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Welcome back to today's Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison. Let me welcome back in our host, Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
Jim, I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Well, we are joined today by Nathan Funston of the Federal Savings Bank. He recently spoke at Valuation Expo during the Lenders and Vendors Live session, and his topic was the pros and cons of AI use in appraisals, and we're excited to have him back. Hey, Nathan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, fresh off Val Expo, so I had a great time and still living on some of the memories there. That was a fun time.
It was a lot. Nathan, thank you so much for being here with us today. We just got back from Val Expo, an absolutely astonishing show of appraisers from across the country. The trade show was full, the general session was full. Thank you for being a part of that. Before we get into this podcast, I'd love it if you give us a quick intro to your background at the Federal Savings Bank and your role in the valuation process.
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, I've been an appraiser since 1992, so going on over 30 years here, coming up in December. And so I come out of the fee appraisal world, a little bit of assessor's office work 2 years and years ago. Been with the bank almost 5 years, coming up in December. So I'm currently the director of collateral valuation. And so it's a little chief appraiser that faces AMCs and the appraisers, but majority of my job is facing the investors, secondary market, and the GSEs. So when things land on my desk escalated, it's usually a pre-close suspense, post-close suspense, and we haven't, I'd knock on wood somewhere, but not many purchase demands from the GSEs and HUD, but that would be in my world too, to try to defend the collateral and move it on. So that's a lot of my job.
Wow. I love the fact that you're an appraiser by trade and you identify as such upfront. That is so good to hear from folks in the lending world that are actually appraisers. I mean, the boots on the ground appraisers need people like you in that role to kind of back their play when it's appropriate. At Val Expo, you shared a presentation on the pros and cons of AI in appraisals. Can you walk us through the biggest benefits you see for lenders and appraisers right now?
Absolutely. I would say the short answer is the biggest benefit in QC is the data integrity. Instantly, an AI model can scan large amounts of data faster than any human already. So let it do its thing. And I think we're already seeing the benefits of image generation and image recognition and room counts. And data integrity is probably one of the biggest issues we face in suspenses, is just room counts, that don't add up and whatnot. So I would say that's the biggest benefit right now of AI.
Okay, that's good. And I think, when we talk about artificial intelligence, and part of my opening remarks at Val Expo, I illustrated some of the problems with artificial intelligence. I showed a picture that my daughter had generated using AI, and I had a hat on in the picture she used, and the photo generated by AI just made the assumption that I was bald because there wasn't enough data there for it to work with. On the flip side of the positives, what are the key risks or downsides of AI that appraisers and lenders need to watch out for?
Yeah, to your point, I think as much as AI can do for us and verify certain data, I think the downside is reliance completely on AI. It is a predictive engine. It predicted you were bald even though you were not. And that's a function of an AI model. It's not a Google search where it says results not found. We haven't seen Hal's hat off. It will say, we predict Hal is bald because the model has been trained to say that he's probably covering up a bald head. So I would say that's the downside, is yet trusting it solely as the arbiter of truth, the magic 8-ball.
I think that's one of the most dangerous things when I see people first getting into AI. They think, oh my gosh, this thing gives me all this information. And sometimes, more often than I'm comfortable with, it comes back with stuff that's just not that useful. How do you think AI will influence the appraisal quality and consistency?
Yeah, it'll definitely influence the quality and consistency. Influence could be good or bad. And I think the jury's still out on where we're headed. I think any technology has had strong benefits, and it's had a lot of changes that I think we as a society are going to need to figure out along the way. As far as quality, like I spoke about earlier, data integrity quality is going to go way up. I think we're going to get past that point where the discussion about revisions is data integrity, and it gets down to the meat and potatoes of what the appraisal credibility is. So I think that'll be a great win for everybody. So I do think overall, as we roll this out, we are going to see a rise and a room for the appraiser to finally be the appraiser and give their human analysis and get rid of all the weeds they've been dealing with. So that is my hope.
I think that's one of the key things. A lot of appraisers, my father was an appraiser, and when I was a kid, he'd be leaving the house and I'd say, "Where's dad going?" And mom would say, "He's going to do an appraisal." And it turns out he was going to observe the property, not do the appraisal. He was going to gather the data. So I think a lot of us appraisers have identified as pseudo home inspectors for quite some time. And we think that our job is to go observe the property, make the measurements, do that thing. And at the end of the day, the appraisal process deals with issues of value and analysis and research. When you look at things that affect the scope of work, that is research and analysis. And I think it's really critical that we understand it is okay to get information from a third party if it's verifiable and good information, and focus on the work of appraising. Let me ask you another question along these lines. Do you see artificial intelligence raising the bar or creating new problems?
I think a little of both. I think it is good. The raising the bar part will be, I think there is room and I think a responsibility and a necessity for appraisers to raise the bar of professionalism and really, really step in. So I think AI is going to challenge public perception of what the appraiser is and what they're not. I think they're going to chat GPT their way through a lot of their answers. And I think it's up to the appraiser to raise that bar and inject themselves in the conversation. So I think it's going to create that necessity. Problems it would create, I think it is the reliance on those answers and public perception on what is and what is not truth. So I hate to give a agnostic answer on it, but it seems to be, this is a very relatively new technology in the last 2-3 years as far as it's picking up steam. So I think we're going to see, but I think mostly good. I think every technology has had a mostly good, effect in our industry.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned, we talked about this earlier. You mentioned you had a doozy of an appraisal addendum come across your desk recently. Tell us that story. Let's unpack that a little bit. Tell me what that story is about and what it means.
Yeah, to give a little, I guess, color to this and why this was considered a doozy. Again, when things land on my desk, they're often on fire, and I don't, as an appraiser, automatically go to page 2 of the URA and look at the value. I don't really care at that point what the value is. I look for the credibility and is this an eligible property? And I really depend on the appraiser to be the expert and tell me I can send this to an investor and they're not going to have a problem with it. And 9 times out of 10, it is not value related. I think that's the perception of most appraisers, is they don't like my value. So to put that in context, I did get an appraisal the other day, and part of our letter of engagement is we have to have at least a C4. That way we can sell to both GSEs and any other investor. We can't have any repairs and whatnot. So we got a C4 appraisal. It lands on my desk because it had some repairs noted. But I just put some bullet points, and I was going to read these 8 bullet points quickly because I want to get it right. So I turned to page 1 in the improvement section. It says C4. Great. The comments in there say well maintained and in very poor condition. And the worst for a C4, no deferred maintenance noted. So instantly, I was a little confused about how we'd arrived at a C4 and very well maintained and in very poor condition. So I flipped to the addendum, as 3.6 will hopefully help out down the road. But here we have a very well written 1-paragraph addendum explaining more about what they meant. So we have a C4 report. The appraiser says no central heat, not typical for the area, rotten siding and trim, extensive peeling paint, deemed habitable but up to interpretation. Could reasonably be a C5. Deck is rotting, porch is caving in, structure seems compromised and no value is given. Floor coverings beyond economic life. And the good part was, despite issues, power and water appear to be functioning. so that was good. So I skimmed to the photos, and we do have pictures of what looks to be an abandoned house or one that hasn't been occupied in a long time. So the big kicker on all of this is we have an as-is report. So my decision at this point is, what do we do with this appraisal? I don't know what to do with this. The appraiser's kind of been ambivalent on what we're looking at. Are we looking at a C5? Are we looking at a C4? I think, it falls on the lender as far as the GSE guides, that it's up to the lender to move this on. But the appraiser's pretty much shown me a lot of safety issues. I would argue C5, if not C6 issues, and we have a C4. So, so that is typical. That happens more often than not, unfortunately, where we get a very ambivalent report, and we have to go back to the appraiser to say, hey, tell us what you're going to tell us. Tell us the truth, as ugly as it may be, but I need to know what I'm looking at so I can make an informed decision. So, yeah.
Yeah, don't bury the lead. And based on your description, I mean, we can flip the lights on, we can flush the toilet, but we might fall through the floor. That's a problem for me.
Right.
Before we finish up, I do want to ask you one thing. We appraisers, oftentimes these days, we deal directly with appraisal management companies, third parties. We don't get to hear directly from lenders very often. What's something you wish more appraisers were doing in their appraisals that come across your desk?
If there was a blanket of remedy to cover most of the pain points we have, the appraisers, I think, need to know their guidelines. They need to know the GSE guides, their HUD 4000.1, and their VA guidelines. I think the guidelines they don't contradict any appraisal processes. They actually support and enhance the process, supporting your adjustments, making sure your commentary is clear, making sure your reports are error-free. We do get a lot of comments back of, I'm appraising for the AMC, not Fannie or not HUD. But I think if appraisers knew their guidelines better than the lender, I mean, they are the experts. I don't ask my plumber, or I don't tell my plumber how to do their job. I expect my plumber to explain things to me. I don't know. So I think that would be one thing I would ask the appraisers. Take 15 minutes a day, thumb through the guides online. Just do that every day. And it would be amazing how good your reports would get.
The interesting thing is, from an appraisal perspective, and I get this as an appraiser, you're out there working, you've got deadlines, you got people calling, emailing, texting even, saying, when's this report going to be done? When's this report going to be done? I even saw a meme the other day of, like, it was, the point of view was a person sitting on a toilet in a restroom, and there was a guy over the thing saying, hey, when's this report going to be done? There's a lot of pressure on appraisers to meet deadlines, to meet shorter deadlines, do those things. At some time, when you have some free time on your hands, the resources are available. Avail yourself of the resources. Fannie Mae Selling Guide is online, available for you as an appraiser to go through and read. You can even search it and find the specific things that apply to us as appraisers. HUD 4000.1, online available. VA guidelines are online available. Read through the guidelines, get yourself familiar with those. And here's the thing, Nathan, would you be offended if an appraiser said, I've been doing this for 20 years, but I don't feel comfortable that I know the 4001 handbook well enough. I'm going to take myself a 7-hour class on FHA appraisals. Would that be a good thing to do?
Absolutely. And I think I learned something after 30 years every day.
Yeah.
Every day I learn something new.
Yeah.
So always.
Well, let's do this. I need to hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Intercorp, a division of Norman Spencer, has your back. Comprehensive insurance coverage from a team that's always there when you need them. The team at Norman Spencer is ready to roll up our sleeves and dig into your toughest insurance questions. We're committed to appraisers and AMCs. Intercorp's programs are tailored specifically for the appraisal industry. Put our experience to work for you. Please contact Susan Lomeli, Lomeli, at norman-spencer.com to discuss your insurance needs.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host, and I've got Nathan Funston on the line with me today. Nathan is with the Federal Savings Bank. We've had a nice long conversation about artificial intelligence and appraisers. Nathan, Jim Morrison likes to do this thing to me where he asks an anonymous appraiser question. Jim, do we have one of those today?
We do, and yeah, this one will be a tough one. So I'll put it in your court. I know a lot of it went over my head. So it says, I just completed an appraisal for a new build FHA, and each of the comparables utilized the concessions ranging from $22K to $35K. My subject also had concessions of $35K. This is the highest amount of concessions I've seen around here, and it represents about 7 to 10% of the total sales price. Because these concessions were common with the subject builder and therefore part of the market, I adjusted it dollar for dollar on the comparables. And of course, these concessions caused the subject to fall under the contract price. They have submitted an ROV with no new sales data, but arguing the concessions should not be adjusted due to a portion of the Fannie Mae BF 1.309 stating only sales or financing concessions that are not typical for the market require adjustments. The market is shown to be contracting over the past 180 days, and the builder is offering bigger incentives to sell their inventory. What's the move here?
Nathan?
Yeah, boy, that's an awesome question. I would say to unpack it just a little bit, I wouldn't be afraid of an ROV process from an appraiser. I think it's our opportunity. We're supposed to maintain public trust, and I think it's our window into our borrowers that we don't often get, is to really defend our work as an appraiser. So the ROV process is not a scary thing. I think it should be an opportunity. As far as the concessions, I think, you look at market value, what the definition is, and part of it in the HUD guidelines is the most probable price not affected by special financing or anything like that. So I think we ask ourselves, how much would these comps have sold for without those concessions? So that becomes the question. Dollar for dollar is kind of beside the point. If it happens to line up with market derived adjustments, then so be it. But I guess the next move for me would be, what are my listing percentages in that plat? If everything's selling for 100% of list price and they're all taking 35,000, what's my surrounding area? Are they taking 6% to sell and they're not taking concessions? That might be a good indicator that, there's your adjustments. Match paired analysis is always good. So I guess that would be my next move, is look into that.
I think couple things I would consider as an appraiser. Number one, is this a market-based concessions thing going on, or is it a builder-specific concession thing? If I've got all my sales out of this one builder subdivision and they're offering these concessions, but the rest of the market area is not offering those concessions, is that typical for the market? That's the first question I want to ask. And then the second one is, I don't love the notion of dollar for dollar adjustments for concessions. I get that sometimes it is appropriate to do that, but it also falls in the category of we have to have support for that. And that goes back to what Nathan was saying, paired sales, market analysis, define your market area properly. Under UAD 3.6, we don't even discuss neighborhoods so much anymore as we talk about the market area. And if your market area includes more than just this one builder subdivision, that's where you need to be making the determination of, is this typical for the market? I would also second what Nathan said. There seems to be a bit of fear and trepidation on the part of appraisers with an ROV. Nathan pointed out that this is not a horrible thing. It is a way for us to defend our work. I would also say, I don't have an ego in this work. If I've missed something, if I've gotten something wrong, it makes me a better appraiser to go back and look at it again and say, oh, I missed that. Let's make this right. So I think an ROV is useful for a chance to defend our work and also a chance to recognize, if we missed something, hey, let's make it right.
Or that's some great answers by both of you. I appreciate the insight on that.
All right, so for our listeners, you will have noticed that I've ducked out a couple of times. I'm dealing with a little bit of a head cold, and I apologize for that. We're not going to be able to edit out all of my move out of the frame and cough out loud moments. Nathan, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. I really enjoyed meeting you at Val Expo.
You
I'd like
too.
to continue that relationship. Thanks for being on the podcast. Jim, do we have anything else we need to cover today?
No, that's it. Nathan, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
And if that is all, for Nathan Funston and Jim Morrison, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.